What's going on YouTube? So the Kia lineup is ever changing, and today we're with the latest model, the refreshed 2024 Seltos.
This has been a very popular product ever since it was offered in 2020. And now for 2024, we have some exciting updates inside and out.
So is this the small value-packed SUV for you? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's start out under the hood because there's some important updates here. Now you still have a standard 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. However, we have an updated 1.6-liter turbocharged engine on today's model. It makes 20 more horsepower than last year, bringing the total to 195 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque.
We also have an updated and new 8-speed automatic transmission for the 1.6-liter turbo, which replaces the previous dual-clutch transmission, or a CVT, on the 2-liter models. Now, as far as fuel economy, we're sitting at 26 miles a gallon combined with this turbo model, and we'll go through all the other ratings and figures later in the test drive portion.
That's right, and also, of course, in the test drive portion, you're going to see the performance of this new powertrain, as well as get signature things like our sound level reading. But first, let's close up the hood and take a look at the updated exterior design. So like we said at the beginning, the Seltos has been really well received. So for this refresh, Kia didn't rock the boat dramatically, but they did freshen up the overall front end look. That means you're going to have the latest version of the Tiger nose face. Like I said, pretty similar to the outgoing model, but we did have some revised elements on board, and there's still some different versions depending on which trim level you choose. We're in a brand new trim level this year. It's called the X line. Effectively, it is the replacement for the previous Nightfall model. Now, the lighting has also been updated. We've got this new star map signature. So it starts here, goes up, kind of curves around, and actually continues into the face, which makes a really unique look at night. As far as the headlights themselves, you are going to have halogen projector headlights on all but the fully loaded SX model. That model will come with a bi-LED, and it will also upgrade some of the other elements, such as the turn signal, and you'll have LED fog lights with a new strip design to replace these halogen fog lights that are on all but the base LX trim level. Just like with the front design, Kia took what was already a handsome rear look and just kind of added some details from their most recent models.
Yeah, I love the way this new Seltos looks. I liked it before, and they have improved it this year. So we have our spoiler up top and exposure wiper, but our big change is going to be the tail light design. So Drew's going to hop inside, and we're going to see if all the elements are LED for 2024. As you can see, we have an LED brake light portion, incandescent reverse light, and incandescent turn signal indicator. So 1 out of 3 elements are LED. I will point out, though, that all of the accenting is going to be LED. This is Kia's new Starlight taillight design that actually looks exactly the same as what's in the front, so I like that cohesive design element going through, and it's going to be LED on all but the very base LX trim level, so I do like that. Now, dropping down to the lower element, I do want to say that this is revised for 2024 as well. We do have a nice piece of piano black going through here since we have the X-Line model. If you go for other trim levels, you're going to have slightly different color finishes back here, but all of them are going to have a little bit more of a tough and rugged look for 2024.
Now, the Seltos will continue to have 7.3 inches of ground clearance, which gives it a more substantial SUV look, and also giving it a more substantial SUV look are your wheel options. So you start with a 17-inch alloy wheel. However, the X-Line and the SX both come with 18-inch alloy wheels. The SX gets a contrast look, and this one gets the blacked out look with the gloss black finish. Looks really nice, especially with the other gloss black accents that you'll see throughout the rest of the X-Line's exterior. Now, as we come up here to the mirrors, you are going to have heating as well as blind spot monitoring on the S trim level and above.
Now, the side of the Seltos isn't going to see a ton of design changes. It certainly didn't need any because it does have that really nice square look that a lot of people are looking for in their SUV. Now, as far as the length is concerned, 172.6 inches in overall length for the Seltos, which does place it a few inches shorter than Corolla Cross as well as the Honda HR-V. Now, the Seltos is a stylish product, so when it comes to design, there are a lot of different options. So up here at the top, I want to talk about the roof rails. Roof rails are standard on all but the very base LX trim level, and if you go for the X line, they're going to be blacked out as well as raised. Now, we're not done yet because Kia does actually offer two-tone roof combinations on this Seltos model. So if you go for an S and X line or an SX trim level, you have the option of getting a black or white roof color option depending on which exterior color you've chosen. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, Kia is throwing in 3 out of your 4 main active safety features as standard equipment on the Seltos. And if you go for the SX trim level, that will further add adaptive cruise control with highway drive assist. But guys, that's going to be it for the exterior, but Kia hasn't rested on their laurels when it comes to the inside, so let's check out the tech updates there.
All right, so let's check out the key on this Kia. As you can see, it is a smart key. This is going to be included on all but the base LX trim level as well as remote start. You also have their new digital key 2.0, so that works with iPhones and Androids. Now to get inside, just press the black button. That will unlock the door. And take a look inside at this cabin. As you can tell right off the bat, there's quite a few things that have changed, especially in terms of the technology. But first, let's talk about our seats and our material and color choices. So, you are going to have a full cloth seat on the LX trim level. The S and the X line are going to come with this seat right here, which is a cloth and leatherette trimmed seat. So as you can see, you got the leatherette over here on the side with the stitching detail. Then you've got the cloth right here in the middle. It is finished in black on this model. If you want leatherette, you can get that on the EX trim level or the SX trim level, and that unlocks a few extra colors, including a green option. Now, as far as the seats, they're going to be manual adjusting on all the models except for the EX and the SX. So let's go ahead and climb inside now and take a look at the details. Now, beyond the seats, we have nice materials for a subcompact crossover. On our armrest, we've got a leatherette trim with the stitching detail. It is going to be leatherette all through the center section as well. It will be hard touch along the top, and then we have piano black accents through the middle. As far as your window, it is one-touch auto down for just the driver, by the way. As you go to the upper dash, as expected, this would also be finished in a hard-touch plastic. And then through the middle section, though, we have a large piece of piano black trim. And it's a little hard to see, but this actually has a design kind of printed on it. It's very interesting looking. This is going to be on the S and the X line models. If you choose the EX or the SX, they'll replace this with a leatherette pad. And then as we move down, you've got the little handlebar, which is a kind of a throwback to the Telluride, as well as some more piano black. And everything in here does fit together extremely solidly. Now on all but the base model, just put your foot on the brake and press the button to fire it up. Now it's time to move into the first person and take a closer look at all the details. Now naturally, the first place to start off by checking out is going to be our new dual display setup. Just like we've had in a lot of recent Kias, we now have the double displays. They're not as big as they are in the Telluride and the Sportage, of course, but it is going to be a double 10.25-inch display setup, including our gauge cluster here on all but the LX trim level. This has all the same features as the other Kia models, so you can cycle through your information, and when you change drive modes, the design itself also changes. Now as you pull back to the steering wheel, if you've chosen anything higher than the base model, you are going to have a nice leather-wrapped one. You got the piano black accents, and it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping, although steering wheel heating is not available. Let's go ahead and move over to interior storage next. Even though this is a small SUV, storage is pretty decent for this class. As you can see, nice and deep, felt-lined center console. Plenty of space for whatever you need to store there, including coupons. You got your nice cup holders right there. And up here in the front, this is where you're going to find a two-tier storage solution. So you've got a big tray up here, as well as another pit where you can stick objects. This is where you're going to find your USB connections, and you would also have a wireless phone charger on the EX and the SX trim levels. Now pulling back to the shifter, we've got a traditional style unit. Just pull back for drive. Bump over here to the left if you want to shift manually. However, we don't have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. When we head into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera. As you can see, we do also have active trajectory on this model. Now, one difference between the trim levels, though, is the fact that we have the, more old-fashioned handbrake for the parking brake, but if you choose the top-end SX, that's going to get you the electronic style instead. Now, flanking both sides of the shifter, you will find your heated seat controls. This is included on the X-Line trim level. And one thing I want to point out, which is a super rare feature for this class, you can get ventilated seats on the Seltos. It's an option on the top-end SX, but like I said, very impressive that it is even an option in this class. All right, now as we move up the dashboard, you'll notice this redesigned area. Underneath, on the lower gray panel, is going to be our audio controls. So let's go ahead and sample the standard 6-speaker sound system. So overall sound quality of this system is perfectly adequate for this price point. You can also get a Bose premium sound system if you choose the SX trim level. But regardless, I have to say I really like the look of these speaker grills. They're very unique looking on the door trim. All right, now returning back over here to the climate controls. This is a single zone automatic setup. This is going to be included on all the trim levels except for the base LX trim level. That will have a manual climate control setup. But you have these nice buttons here for easy adjustment. Fan speeds, everything is going to be physically located right there. And now let's bump on up here and take a look at the main display. I already touched on this a little bit, but this is a 10.25-inch display. This is included on all but the LX trim level, which will instead have an 8-inch display. As you can see, this does have the latest Kia software, so you've got the little splash screen. Also, when you have this larger display, this is going to include the integrated navigation system, which can take up the entire display. Now, as far as other features you might care about, you do have standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. However, they do not run wirelessly, so you will have to plug them in with the USB port. Rising on up here, we do have a manual dimming mirror on this model, auto dimming on the SX only. Got touch capacitive LED lighting. And as you can tell, we don't have a sunroof on this X-Line model. However, you can option on a sunroof to both the EX and the SX models.
Now, the Seltos has always had one of the best rear seats in the class, and that is not going to change for 2024. So let's go ahead and dive into the space first. We're going to have 38 inches of legroom, 38.4 inches of headroom, which is very impressive figures for the segment. That's going to be more than the Honda HR-V, more than the Toyota Corolla Cross. Really, the only competitor it's less than is the Chevy Trailblazer. That's going to have slightly more space, but there is plenty of room for anyone in the back of this Seltos. As far as knee space, we're looking at about 6.5 inches behind Drew's seating position. He's 5'8", I'm 5'9" for reference, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, so a good amount of space back here. And I will point out that the seats themselves are going to be very comfortable in the Seltos. Now, Kia doesn't forget about the features, though, even in this segment. So here in the center, we're going to have rear vents on all but the very base LX trim level. So sorry, Katy Perry, we're not going to be hot or cold in the rear of the Seltos because we're going to have vents. We do also have 2 USB-C ports, which is a nice new feature. We also have this little cubby right here. And then if we fold down the center armrest, we do have 2 cup holders inside. Turning to our door trim, we do have a nicely finished one. It is going to be hard touch, but we do have a leatherette armrest portion, which is nice. And then down in the very bottom, we do have some bottle storage, or also very useful for a roll of toilet paper if you have allergies like me and have to still film car reviews. Now, one of the best things about the Seltos is just how spacious it is in the rear seat, but also here in the cargo area. So let's check that out. Now, we do have a manually opening tailgate on the vast majority of Seltos models. That being said, they are offering a power tailgate as an option on the SX trim level. It's in the sunroof package. You can get a power tailgate, which is very rare actually for this segment of vehicle. Now, as far as the space is concerned back here, you heard me say it was a class-leading figure, and it is. 27 cubic feet behind the second row seats. If we reach up and fold these seats down, we're looking at about 63 cubic feet of cargo capacity, which is very, very good for this segment of vehicle. That's going to best all the main rivals. Now, as far as finishings back here, we do have a decently nice carpeting along the floor, and if we lift that up, we have a spare tire under here. There's not any handles in the back to fold the seats, but you can just reach up there. It's not too hard to just reach up and fold them down, and it is mostly flat with the loading floor, although there is a little bit of a hump. Let me get my tape measure out. From the back of the driver's seat all the way, trying to keep it level here, we're looking at about 65 inches of space. So that's a good amount, especially for this segment of vehicle. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the refreshed Kia Seltos. And yes, we do have that updated turbo engine on this model right here. So we're definitely excited to show you what that's all about. We will be covering a lot of different information, including getting our sound level reading. So with that all said, let's go ahead and start out with a hard acceleration. Dang.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, that was about 60 miles per hour. So, like we said at the spec dump, the big news with this 1.6 liter turbocharged engine is that we actually have 20 more horsepower, which is a really substantial bump, on something that's under 200 horsepower. That now takes us to 195 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Those are really good numbers for this segment.
Yeah.
Typically in this class, you don't really have any optional power upgrades. You just have one standard engine. It can be anywhere as low as maybe even 130 horsepower, that area, or 150s. But going up to nearly 200 horsepower is certainly a nice advantage here with this Seltos.
And also the nearly 200 pound-feet of torque as well really pushes you back in your seat. And like Drew said, the vast majority in this segment are, dare I say, excruciatingly slow pretty much. And this is definitely a welcome change for that. To get that on the upper end trim levels of the Seltos, it's just really nice to have that as an engine option. Now, really the only thing that's going to be quicker than this Seltos in this segment would be the CX-30 Turbo, which is going to command quite a bit of a price premium over this.
Right. So to be clear about which trim levels the Turbo is on, it's going to be standard on the X line as well as the SX.
Yeah. Now, if you don't opt for one of those higher-end models, you will get the standard 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. That's going to be making 146 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque. So significantly less horsepower, significantly less torque for that motor. It's an acceptable option. I mean, certainly we've driven it for the last 3 or 4 years that we've reviewed Seltos. It's had the base engine option, and it's perfectly fine for the segment. But if you crave that additional power, this is an option, and I would recommend going for the turbo.
Yeah, I really like the power delivery. Like Mason said, the low-end torque from the turbo engine really pushes you back in the seat compared to the naturally aspirated version where you kind of have to rev it out more.
For sure.
Let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain, though, because this is an important upgrade for the turbo model in addition to that extra power. We now have an 8-speed automatic transmission, which replaces the previous dual-clutch transmission. This is an upgrade in the sense that people had previously complained a little bit about the roughness of that dual-clutch transmission, so now going to the more traditional version really smooths things out.
Yeah.
As we're driving around here, you go under hard acceleration, it shifts, nice and quick, it's totally fine. But most importantly, when you're around town, you don't have any jerking, harshness, anything like that. It's just going to be, that nice traditional feel that everybody likes. And it's an upgrade, of course, over the continuously variable transmission, which comes on the standard 2-liter models.
Yeah, and as far as how that power is put to the ground, you are going to have front-wheel drive only on the S and EX trim levels with available all-wheel drive, and then you have standard all-wheel drive on every other version. So that's one of the unique things about the Seltos is that the vast majority of the trim levels actually have all-wheel drive as standard equipment.
Yeah, including the base model.
And as far as your fuel economies, as you would expect, the best fuel economy is going to come with the 2-liter front-wheel drive model, which is rated at 31 miles a gallon combined. All-wheel drive with the 2-liter is 29 mpg. And then if you go for the turbo, like what we have today, that is only available in all-wheel drive, and that's going to get 26 miles per gallon combined. But just kind of cruising along here as we're on this highway stretch, I do want to talk about the Seltos ride quality. Now, this has always been an area where this vehicle has felt a lot more substantial than the vast majority of the segment, and I see that continue for 2024. When you hit a bump, it does a really good job of soaking it up. There's not a lot of rattles or intrusion into the cabin, which can be common in this segment. So certainly I'm very happy with the ride quality. I also really like these seats. They're very comfortable. So no complaints when it comes to the ride quality department. Now, I do want to also get our signature car confection sound level reading going 55 miles per hour so we can compare to some of the rivals. So go ahead and speed up to 55 here. And we are sitting at 60.6 decibels as our official sound level reading. Now, as far as how that falls on our rating scale, that is going to be about middle of the segment when it comes to this particular model today. But I do want to point out it is very windy outside. We're under a wind warning here in Kentucky. So I wouldn't say this is the most accurate reading. I'd say definitely knock a few decibels off of that.
Yeah, this is a little louder than last year.
Yeah, and the 2023 Seltos that we tested out, which I don't see any reason why they would have made this less quiet inside the cabin, was rated at 57.4 decibels, which I say sounds about right for this vehicle.
Sport mode kind of just dials up the throttle response mostly. Makes the steering maybe a little spiffier. As far as the handling, this is not a sport-oriented SUV by any stretch of the imagination, but they've done a good job. The steering, nicely weighted, quick response, good body control as well.
Now, we do also want to hit one of our other car confection signature elements, our slam dunk and airball. I'll have Drew kick us off with the slam dunk, and then I'll hit the airball for this new Seltos.
So the slam dunk will be just the value proposition on board. As we've discussed throughout this review, you've got a lot of space, you have a lot of features, especially now we have the updates for 2024 with this new technology, which is really very nice for this class of vehicle. It just continues to really impress with that value proposition.
Yeah. And there is one caveat to that, and that is going to be today's airball, the lighting. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have already commented in the comment section down below complaining about the lighting by this point in the video, because we are at a above $30,000 price tag on this X-Line trim level, and we still do not have LED headlamps. So that is just something I'm really disappointed by, that it's only on the top-end SX trim level. I was really hoping Kia would just make that standard across the board on the Seltos, like the vast majority of rivals actually do. The Honda HR-V has its standard. The Toyota Corolla Cross has LED lighting standard. I mean, it's becoming, modern times. We want LED lighting so you can see at nighttime, and Kia is just not including that on this 2024 Seltos. And if you choose to buy a Seltos, you will be protected by a very good warranty. 5-year, 60,000 miles for your basic warranty. 10-year, 100,000 miles for your powertrain warranty. And Kias are always known for having value, so how much is this Seltos going to cost? Well, we're starting at $24,390 for the LX trim level. And I do keep in mind that does actually have standard all-wheel drive, so that's very impressive as a starting point. The S, $24,990, X-Line, $28,690. EX $25,790 and SX $29,990. Now, this particular model does have just a few accessories plus the $13,925 destination. $30,190 is what we're sitting at for this X-Line all-wheel drive. But But guys, that's going to wrap up one of the first in-depth reviews of the refreshed 2024 Kia Seltos. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, please help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below. By doing so, you help give us access to vehicles like this where we can sample some of the newest products out on the market. So please hit that subscribe button, tell a friend, tell a family member as well. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. And if you haven't had the chance to follow us on TikTok and Instagram, please do that, as well as check out our merch store. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.